This episode of The Surge is brought to you by Origin, proud partners of Cricket Australia and powering the power surge in BBL 15. We're over halfway through the BBL 15, and if this season has taught us anything, it's to expect the unexpected in the Big Bash.
And the Chief leads the Renegades to a magnificent victory.
Mike Hussey returns to the desk while Scorchers young star Mahli Beardman dials in from Perth to take us through their thrilling win over the Strikers. This is The Surge. G'day everyone, welcome back to The Surge. Adam White with you, back in the studio after being on the road for the last couple of episodes, and I have got Mike Hussey back with me in the studio. Mike, welcome back.
G'day Adam, great to be here again.
There's been lots going on and it feels like a fair bit's changed since we spoke last.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some exciting games, particularly at the Gabba. They seem to always have a scorching game up there. And then a great derby last night. Really enjoyed the Stars against the Renegades. Renegades just getting home in a real tight one.
Yeah, it felt like being back at the MCG in the early 90s for World Series cricket. You know, just that atmosphere of a packed house for night cricket, that kind of atmosphere that you don't get so much anymore in cricket. It was so exciting.
Just under 70,000 is incredible. You know, it's two good rivals going head to head, some stars from both sides, and I thought the Renegades were going to blow that. I thought they were going to chase that score down easily, and then they just wobbled at the end. But thankfully for them, Will Sutherland did the job at the end. Yeah,
we'll talk more about that game shortly, but just on the actual atmosphere, I mean, there's been a lot of talk in the build-up that they might get 60+ thousand and take it back to the days from nearly 10 years ago when they were getting those sorts of crowds. But not only did they get them, the ones that went last night, I kind of feel like they'd all want to go back again. It was that sort of night.
Yeah, definitely. I think also the earlier start time helps. 6 o'clock, you can bring younger kids. Finish by 9 o'clock, you can still get home by a reasonable hour. Whereas that extra hour and a quarter, sometimes it's a bit too late for a lot of families to get there. So it was a beautiful day in Melbourne. Two good teams. Earlier start time. I think we're all falling in love with cricket. We got the Ashes on. The Big Bash has been great. So I just feel like just everything sort of gelled together to make it a perfect night.
Storm. Yeah. I know that from my case that we all went as a family because it was the earlier start. The next door neighbours went. The people up the road went. But I know TV executives would want the later start. So I guess it's Alistair Dobson's job to get the right balance, isn't it?
Definitely.
In the end. Okay, so before we get into the games and the issues in the game, I'm just interested in your overall thoughts on where we sit at the moment. So maybe who do you reckon is the star player in the competition to this point? We're probably just over halfway through now.
I mean, it's a tough one. I think, Sam Harper's been really good with the bat, as has Matt Renshaw. They're both up there in the run-scoring stakes. Harris, Ralph and Peter Siddle have been unbelievable with the ball. But I think the two that I'm really tossing up between is Jack Edwards from the Sixers and Cooper Connolly from the Scorchers. I think both of them being all-rounders, you just can't keep them out of the game. I mean, if Cooper Connolly misses out with the bat, he seems to just come in and get 3 or 4 or 3 wickets and a couple of catches and just stays involved in the game. And Jack Edwards a bit the same. He's playing a tough role, batting down the order. He's played some good innings so far already, but he's also picked up some handy wickets. He got a fifer against the Thunder in one innings as well. So I'm finding it really hard to sort of split those two, Edwards and Cooper Connolly.
I think the key to both of those two is that the ability to bowl 4 overs, but be batting in your top 6, just from a structural point of view. I think particularly with Connolly and Matt Short's an example of the Strikers, Stoinis and Maxwell at the Stars. It gives you that opportunity to play the extra batter in the middle order if you've got that guy that can bowl the overs and bat high. It's a big
without
advantage.
doubt. Oh, without doubt. I mean, those players are worth their weight in gold, to have and they're good fielders as well. So to have someone very proficient in all 3 aspects of the game, they're so handy, and it just helps the balance of the team. As you say, you feel like you're a bit light in one other aspect, then you can strengthen that, extra batter, or if you need one extra bowler, you've just got so much more flexibility.
Yeah, definitely. Right, what about a breakout player so far that surprised you? Not so much the best, but one that surprised you.
Yeah, another Sixer actually. Joel Davies is someone that's really stepped up. He's bowled beautifully with his left-arm spinner, so he's very cagey. I thought he was more of a part-time sort of bowler, gun fielder, and more of a sort of late-order hitter. But his bowling has been really impressive, and just lately starting to play a couple of innings with the bat as well. We know his fielding's always going to be really good, but now getting a few more opportunities for the Sixers, and he's really grabbed his chance.
They probably didn't win the game against the Renegades if he didn't play.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Bat and ball.
Yeah, I mean, I've just really enjoyed his composure under pressure. Like, he's bowled in some tricky situations, and he's been very clear on what he wants to do, and he's been able to execute his skills under pressure. And that's always the mark of a really good player. He's shown really good composure and calmness, on the biggest stage.
You talked to Andrew McDonald about, is there any correlation at all between what you do domestically, particularly in the BBL, to potentially playing cricket for Australia? And he talks about it's not so much the batting or the bowling, it's the ability to execute your plan under pressure, to have clarity under pressure, which clearly is the case in BBL. And Cooper Connolly comes to mind, is to be able to execute under pressure. Joel's kind of doing the same thing. It's something that you can really enhance your reputation as a cricketer.
Most definitely. And yeah, I reckon that's what the people up there in the Australian setup and selectors are looking for. That, they know they're highly skilled players. Everyone playing in the Big Bash has got great skills, but can you access those skills when you're under enormous pressure? Another one that I was impressed with just in the last couple of games is Josh Brown. Yep. Watching him bat last night, he was so composed as well. Like, it's a big game. It's a derby. MCG, 70,000 just about there in the ground, and he just looked in control of his game. He wasn't rushed. The other end, I thought Seifert, he looked a bit frantic, and he's an experienced international, player from New Zealand, overseas professional, and I felt like Josh Brown was the calm one at the crease, and I think that's what the selectors are sort of looking at, those sort of attributes in players.
Definitely. A breakout team, before we get to some of the issues, is there one to this point? Because it's really hard to find out or to determine who are the best teams at the moment, because it keeps changing.
It is difficult. There is one team that I wasn't that hot on coming into the season, and they've pulled off a couple of incredible victories, and that's the Brisbane Heat.
Yep.
Chasing down 257 against the Scorchers. Their win when Max Bryant helped them knock off the Melbourne Stars the other night up at the Gabba as well. They've just got that crowd absolutely rocking up there. They're not the most fashionable team going around. They don't have the biggest names or the biggest stars, but they're just finding a way to get things done, and I admire that about them. I really do. There's something special about the Brisbane Heat at the moment, and can they maintain it? I'm not sure. But at the moment, they're finding a way. And I love going up to the Gabba to watch them play at the moment, because you just get so many classic matches up there.
And the thing about the Heat is, if they can stay in touch, knowing that Khawaja and Labuschagne come back into that team, Nisa's another one that comes back into that team, it can completely turn the competition on its head.
Definitely. I mean, there's a few teams in that boat that are going to get some players back after the Ashes finishes, and they could become real dangerous. So that's where the Brisbane Heat, they intrigued me a little bit, because, the games that they won that they probably should have lost, they're the ones you look back on at the end of the season and think, oh, that's the one that got us into the finals. And yeah, you're right. Once you get in the finals and you get some big names back, then anything can happen.
Absolutely. Okay, the Brisbane Heat, Huss's breakout team so far in the competition. Now let's get straight into the power play, because there are so many issues bubbling around at the moment. I want to start with the Melbourne Stars. You always like to be positive when you look at or reflecting back on a game, which was obviously last night with the Renegades and the Stars. But the Stars now, that's 2 in a row where they were in winning positions and they lost both of them. What's going on there, do you think? Has anything changed?
I don't think there's any cause for panic whatsoever. They've lost 2 tight games. It can happen in T20 cricket. It's a volatile game. You just need 1 or 2 players to play out of their skin, and the game can get taken away from you. So, they'll be disappointed to lose those 2 games, but they've got a lot of experience in that team. They've got a lot of quality. And so, I don't think there's any, as I said, no cause for concern whatsoever. I just think they just need to get back to just playing their game, executing their skills, which they were doing probably a lot better earlier in the season. I feel like even last night, they were just getting a bit carried away with some external stuff. They were getting involved, with some confrontations out in the middle. And I just think they're too good. They don't have to worry about trying to think they've got to flex their muscles in front of, the opposition. They just got to play their game. If they play the game on skill and not on emotion, then more often than not, they should come out on top.
And I agree with you. And I spoke to Sam Harper about this last night. He was kind of saying, well, look, the 2 games we've lost were in the balance. That's the nature of T20 cricket. But do they have to be a little bit careful that they don't lose all that momentum that they had through the first half of the competition and what they did towards the end of last year?
Well, of course you need to be careful, but the T20 cricket's a game where if you try and be careful, sometimes it doesn't go your way. So I think they've just got to almost put those 2 games behind them. They're playing good cricket. They've got some stars in that team. One area that also interests me a little bit about the Stars, they muck around with their batting order a lot. And I understand you do need to be flexible through the middle order, but they've got some high-end, world-class players. They keep pushing down the order further and further. Stoinis coming in at 6 last night, I think, he's in great form. That was a mistake. Glenn Maxwell, he's hardly batted in the tournament. So you've got to get these players in facing a few more balls. So I don't like the way they're mucking around with their batting order, there. But I do understand that the flexibility, and there's a lot of strategy that goes involved in that.
And then to the Renegades, they found a way to win, which I think is important because they found a way to lose a few games as well through this tournament. But to someone like Will Sutherland, who is still a young man, who's still trying to work out his own game, let alone the Renegades game, to have that moment where he was able to execute under pressure, what does that do to his confidence and his belief, I guess?
Well, yeah, a lot. I actually was very impressed with his captaincy last night. I thought the way he, in the field, the way he sort of rotated his bowlers around, they've got a bit of an identity now of playing the extra spinner, using their spinners in key times, and I think that's a really good tactic from the Melbourne Renegades. I thought the way he the way he manoeuvred the bowlers in the field was very, very good. So I think he can take some confidence from the captaincy side of things. But then you want a performance as well. And I feel like he's been bowling quite well in the last couple of games, picking up the odd wicket, but he's keeping it tight. But to finish a game off like that against your rival with the bat. That'll do his confidence the world of good, and I hope that a few of his teammates jump on the back of that, and he can carry a few because I get the feeling he's a bit of that spiritual sort of leader in that team. Like he's such a great guy, a great talent, and if he can get that confidence going, I feel as though he can drag a few blokes along with him.
And of course, the Melbourne Mace, is behind you there, and it's got the big R of the Renegades on it because they were the ones that won the Mace. They've got it at least for the next few days before they head across town to Marvel Stadium to take on each other again. And there'll be a bit more spice in this one based on how that game finished last night.
Well, there was plenty of spice in it last night. The Stars were, I thought they were out of it, as the Renegades were chasing down that total, and then they just fought their way back into it, and they had some real belief they were going to win that game. You could see how emotional some of those players were getting. Siddle, 41 years of age, so pumped up. Stoinis, Harris, Ralph, I was sort of thinking, wow, they're right up for this. So going down in the end, you think they'll be trying to step it up at Marvel Stadium in a few days' time.
Will Sutherland did a really good job carrying his team on his back towards the end. I think that was an easier thing than actually carrying that Mace off the field. It's that heavy. But it's good to have it in the studios with us today. All right, the other game that was played last night was the Scorchers and the Strikers. It finished here on the eastern side of the country. It felt like about 2:00 in the morning. But somehow the Strikers managed to lose almost the unlosable. How did that happen?
Well, they've done it twice now. There's a game at the Gabba they should have chased down comfortably as well when they blew that one. And so now they've blown this one against the Scorchers. They were in a position where you just need one of those batters at the top to take the responsibility, bat pretty much to the end, and they win that game in a canter. So they'll be bitterly disappointed with that, the Strikers. Interesting, they've changed their tactics a little bit. They identified bowling was a weakness over the last couple of years, so they've gone out and tried to strengthen that as much as they can, and they've done a pretty good job with that, to be fair. But unfortunately, it seems to have taken away from the batting side of things. And
almost overcorrected.
Yeah, and they're so reliant on Matt Short at the top to play that big innings. And he's at his best when he is clear and free to be able to be aggressive and play shots. And I feel like he's just a bit caught in between now because he knows he hasn't got that sort of star power through the middle order anymore. Then it's just putting a little bit of doubt in his mind. And then Chris Lynn, well, he's obviously a gun player, but it's not as consistent as probably what he used to be. So, they rely heavily on those two to get a lot of the runs. And unfortunately, when they miss out, then, they just don't have enough quality through the middle. And
then from a Scorchers point of view, they had to do it differently. And I remember talking to you about this last time. We know how good their batting is. But it's had to be their bowlers a couple of times now to get it done. Now, we'll talk to Mahli Beardman a little bit later on as to what's happening sort of behind the scenes, but they would have to give them a lot of confidence to knowing that their batting's fine, that they're finding a way with their bowlers.
Yeah, well, the bowling was a concern for me coming into the tournament.
I agree.
I mean, they lost so many experienced bowlers, and there's a lot of youth in there, a lot of unheralded players. The batting looked really strong. And to be honest, the batting hasn't really fired in the last couple of games, but the bowling has been really strong and sort of pulled them out of the mire, really. So, I'm also interested to chat to Mahli about, this bowling group and how they're coming together and the work being done behind the scenes, because they're obviously doing a really good job because they've had a habit of, defending those low titles in the past.
It's really hard to know who it is. We were talking before about having at least one bowler in your top six. They've got two. They've got Hardy and Connolly that can bowl their 4 overs but still batting the top 6. So they're getting it from different contributions from different people all the time.
Well, that was the funny thing about last night's game. The strikers used so much spin against the Scorchers, and it really worked, probably apart from the last over, which sort of got away from the strikers a little bit. But they did a great job with their spinners. And then the Scorchers thought, well, if it worked for the strikers, it might as well work for us. And Ashton Turner picks up 2 wickets in one over. It was unbelievable. So I guess we talked about the Scorchers batting a fair bit, but they have got a couple of injury concerns there as well. The two overseas players, so Finn Allen and Laurie Evans are both out of the team at the moment. I don't know how bad their injuries are, but that certainly changes the dynamic of the batting a little bit.
I agree. Talking about injuries, the Hobart Hurricanes, no Tim David. It kind of felt like it was no Tim David, no Hurricanes. That might not now necessarily be the case from what we saw the other night.
That was an incredible run chase against the Thunder. I mean, I thought the Thunder had more than enough runs on the board there. It must have been a really good pitch, and they chased it down comfortably in the end. I still think there's some concerns there with no Tim David. Like, just knowing you've got that guy that can, when you know you need 12, 13, 14 and over, you're not going to be able to do that all the time. So I mean, the Hurricanes look great. They've got a very well-balanced team. They look really good on paper, but I still think you take a Tim David out of any team and you're going to have a little concern there for sure.
Yeah, because I think it changes the way the Hurricanes play. And I know you've said this on game coverage on Fox about how they can be calm in the first 10 and not panic knowing that Tim David's to come.
Yeah.
When he's not there, once the rate becomes a bit of an issue, they are more prone to maybe panic and make mistakes and push too hard.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, they're doing a pretty good job of it at the moment, being able to cover. I think Matthew Wade's going to probably become the most important player in that team there in the middle. Like he's taken the responsibility and chased down a couple of, good sort of totals there at the end for the Hobart Hurricanes, got him a couple of wins. So I think his experience will be vital for them moving forward.
Yeah, and our man Chowdhury's done quite well as well, in that sort of 4-5 slot. Tim Ward's an interesting one. We'll talk about him maybe a little bit later as well, but I kind of thought 3-4 years ago he was potentially an opener for Australia in Test cricket, and he kind of is just not quite taking his cricket to another level. But what he was able to do last night, I never expected that, or the other night, never expected him to do that in 20-over cricket.
No, me neither. I must admit, I had him on my SuperCoach bench, so I wish I had him on the field. But I commentated a game with Moses Enriques when Tim Wood got his opportunity to play for the Hurricanes, and he spoke glowingly about him as a player and said, I really rate this guy and I think he can become a really good player. And he's showing it. I mean, that was an incredible and no one expected it. You know, there's the other big names in the team. You've got Wade, you've got McDermott, you've got Mitch Owen. But no, it was Ward, the one that took the game away from the Thunder. It was a great performance.
Shots that I didn't think he was capable of playing because it's all about his temperament and his technique, not some of the things that he was doing up in Sydney. So what does that mean for the Thunder now? I mean, David Warner goes and makes 130 not out. They don't win. This is a team that's got a lot of experience. They played in the grand final last year. And mathematically, it looks almost impossible for them now to make the finals.
Well, I believe there's still a 2% chance. And
I think the Stars were a 1% chance last year.
I'm not willing to write anyone off because the Melbourne Stars after last year were 0-5. Now, the Thunder are 1-5.
Yep.
So 1-5. So they're still on par with the Stars, but they're going to have to get something going. And that David Warner innings was absolutely incredible. Watching some of that, he was vintage David Warner, and they don't deserve to lose that game. When you've got one player that plays that well and makes, what'd you say, 130? Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame for the Thunder, but they've still got to believe. And sometimes, like the Stars last year, you get yourself into this position, you become really dangerous because you think, well, we're unlikely to make the finals. We've got nothing to lose now. Let's just go out there and just see what happens. And you can get on these rolls. And the Stars showed it last year, and I'm not writing the Thunder off from doing that either because they've got enough quality there. They just haven't put it together yet. And while there's still a mathematical chance, then I'm not willing to write them off.
And if you talk to other teams, they'll say the same thing. They're of the belief that the Thunder are a top 4 team.
Yeah.
And so they will take them very seriously from now to the end of the season as well. They're not going to be taking them lightly.
Well, you can't take any game lightly, but you just don't like coming up against teams like that when they've got nothing. They feel like they've got nothing to play for. They become really dangerous.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that is the power play for this edition of The Surge. Next is a young star from the West. His name is Mahli Beardman. He will join us on The Surge.
There's another one. There is another one. He's just trying to heave a good length ball over mid-wicket, give himself a bit of room, show the stumps, mix it, gone.
Another one bites the dust. This is just a procession. Slower ball from Beardman. Oh, it's a good bit of bowling, actually. And just the bounce.
Yes, Mahli Beardman, one of the young stars of not only the Scorchers but the entire BBL competition, and he joins us on the surge. Mahli, thanks so much for joining us.
No worries. Thank you for having me, guys.
Now, it was a big win last night. You had to do it the hard way, and for a lot of the night, I didn't think you were going to get the win, but you got over the line. It was quite a dramatic performance and an impressive one.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite a bizarre wicket, to be honest, as we thought. Ended up playing, obviously, a huge role with the spin in both sides of the game. And, yeah, I mean, it was just an incredible win.
Now, Mike's got a lot of questions for you, but I did want to ask you about, when you see a game change where there's so much spin being bowled and you're a fast bowler, what are you thinking standing in the field?
It was a mixture of things. I think cutters were working pretty well at the time, and obviously we had some experience there with Joel and those boys who have played a lot of cricket across a lot of different wickets. So it was conveyed pretty early that pace on looks pretty nice, and that sort of three-quarter seam and off cutters and things were sticking a little bit more. So, yeah, I think it was just sort of about adjusting as quick as we could there, and then, as a bowling unit, just adapt.
Yeah, g'day, Mahli. Mike Hussey here, mate. You guys didn't look like you had enough runs at the halfway mark of that game. What sort of things were spoken by Adam Voges, the bowling coaches, and or the bowlers amongst yourselves about what you needed to do in that second innings to try and give yourself a chance to win?
I think, to be honest, there was a mixture of things. AT came out and said we thought we were obviously a few short, but we sort of built a reputation and a legacy around competing and scrapping hard in low totals. So AT just said, regardless of what the outcome was, that he wanted us to bring energy and fight. And that was a real sort of focus point for us of regardless of what went on and obviously how many runs we had in this shed, we just wanted to go out there with an intent. And obviously we're going to play the Strikers again in a few days' time. So if there's any way to leave a few scars there, then that was the plan.
Yeah, and the atmosphere at the ground seemed incredible last night. And you guys as players seemed more pumped up than usual, especially like someone like Joel Paris. He was running around like an 18-year-old after getting a wicket.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 40,000 people at Optus is such an incredible atmosphere, as you said, and such an incredible energy. So, yeah, big Jolie let loose there for a few overs and started running around like a headless chook a little bit. But, yeah, I think that passion and energy is just awesome. I think it shows how much it matters to us and how much we care about going out there and trying to put on a performance as a bowling unit.
You talked about the trademark of defending low scores and getting down and dirty when you have to. Talk to us about some of the things that you've had to learn as a relatively new player to the team to be like some of the great Scorchers bowlers of the past and keep that reputation going.
It's still very much a work in progress. Still learning every day off that group. And obviously have such an incredible wealth of knowledge behind the scenes as well, with when Richo's around and Lance when he's not playing, but he's still around the group. So I'm very much still learning as I'm going. But I think a lot of it, to be honest, is an attitude and a mindset thing, which I've had to sort of adapt through the senior boys. Seems to be just a willingness of belief and fight regardless of where you are in the game and sort of regardless of what position you're in, is that the WA way is that we think we can get back in any game and we can end up winning any game. And I think that's driven from Adam Voges and the coaching staff, and then obviously AT being one of the most competitive people I've ever met also adds on top of that. So, it's an incredible culture and it's an absolute privilege to be able to put that hat on and sort of follow in the footsteps of some of the most incredible fast bowlers and bowlers that the game has ever seen.
So is that a pressure to be like them, or is it actually quite easy because you've got so many players that are still within the Scorchers organisation that care, that legacy almost for them to sort of pass on to you that, hey, this is the way you do it, and it's actually not too difficult, not too much of a pressure?
Yeah, I think it's 100% a privilege. I think, it's an absolute privilege, as I said, to be able to put that hat on and to be able to run out there with that group and what they've accomplished over the last few years, not only through Big Bash but through West Australian cricket and domestic cricket, has been absolutely incredible. So, there's always going to be a little bit of pressure and a little bit of expectation, but it's very minimal. And I think the understanding of that I'm able to do what I love and to be able to follow in the footsteps of such great cricketers is something that's an absolute privilege.
Can you just take us back to, you as a child and your journey in your cricket career so far? Just give the listeners a bit of an insight about where you've come from, how you got into fast bowling and your journey so far.
I started off down south in a little town called Quarama in the southwest, close to Margaret River. Sort of grew up there and had a pretty normal upbringing for a down south boy. Loved my diving, loved my surfing. Anytime I could get in the ocean, that was sort of where all my spare time went. And then sort of started to pick up a cricket ball a little bit later. I think I played Milo cricket originally and then didn't really sign up for a juniors team and just played a lot of backyard cricket with my old man. And then I think I would have been around year 4 or so, year 3 maybe, was down at the nets and a great man named Bill Van Vliet was a bat maker and surfboard shaper in Quarama at the time. I was having a hit in the nets and he came up to me and gave me my first bat. And I remember that so vividly and remember steaming in at the Quarama nets and just trying to bowl as fast as I could after I watched Mitchell Johnson in that 2013-14 Ashes series. And then, sort of just fell in love with the game from there and signed up for a local team and played for Quarama that first year. And then ended up moving up north to Dampier and played a couple of years of club cricket up there before I got scouted by the Wacker when I was about 13. I was 12 or 13, and then moved down to Perth for high schooling, went down to Melville, and then, it just sort of went from there, played the full juniors, made my first grade debut at 15, and then, played a couple of years of first grade and then got my first contract when I was 18. And then, it's just sort of all flowed on from there.
It sounds like Mahli's about 46 going through that, and he's still pretty much a teenager.
Well, funny enough, Nathan Coulton-Oz now playing down in Quarama, and I think he's terrorising some of the batters down there. But what about some of the most influential coaches you've had in your career so far? I know you're still young, but have there been any bowling coaches that have really had a big impression on you?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate so far to work with some incredible names. DK Lilly's been one that's been there for me since I was sort of 13 or 14, which has been absolutely incredible. And then, I've gone through Matty Mason. The early days at WA was also amazing. And then working with Timmy McInerney has been absolutely incredible. But, I've been super fortunate to be able to work with some incredible names.
Yeah, you've got to tell us, how is this possible that you get to work with Dennis Lilly?
It's a funny story. I was back down, we were in Perth at the time, but we went back down south over the holiday break. I was in year 9 or so, and I was coming back from a stressy and I was bowling to a bin down the side of a mate's house as fast as I could on a gravel road. I was absolutely peppering the bin, and he has 2 houses and he was watching from his house up on top of the hill. For some reason thought that there was a little bit of pace there or there was a little bit of something. And he was very good friends with a man named Rod Duggan, who's a close friend of DK's. And Max got in contact with Rod and said that our kid's absolutely peppering a bin on the side of the house and I think he's got a little bit of pace behind him. So gave Rod a call and then Rod got a hold of DK and DK sort of came back and was like, I don't really want to work with anyone under the age of 17 or 18. His thing was once they've developed their own action and their own understanding of cricket, then he felt like he could help them. He didn't want to grab people too early and sort of change anything. So, I ended up, that just sort of got buried and a few months went by and then I don't actually remember how it all ended up happening, to be honest, but I think I was back down there again and Rod got in contact with Dennis again and then eventually convinced him to have a session down at South Perth and went down to the nets as a 13 or 14-year-old and DK watched and then from there he sort of ended up breaking his own rule, which was an absolute privilege. And as I said, I'm very thankful and very fortunate to have him in my corner.
You have got a beautiful, smooth action. Have you modelled that on anyone in particular?
There's been a few. I don't know if it's been modelled off. There was a lot of inspiration from Dale Steyn when I was young. Watching him charge in and bowl as quick as he could and terrorise batsmen. I think that was probably the most influential cricketer that I had. And then as Mitchell Johnson in the Ashes series, as any young kid has watched, was pretty incredible. And then I I went through a bit of a stage of loving watching the old West Indies era of Malcolm Marshall and so forth, and went back through that era and sort of fell in love with fast bowling through that as well. So there's been a combination of people, but I'd say Dale Steyn would have been probably the number one.
Oh, I was one of those batsmen that were terrorised by Dale Steyn. I hated facing him. I'm getting the shivers now just thinking about it.
I was just thinking about that famous series
I
against
watched that the other day.
South Africa.
The video.
Oh, no. It's so embarrassing.
So, I know you've had some injury issues through your young career, which inevitably happens with most young fast bowlers, but how difficult is it to sort of rein it back and not want to get the radar gun hitting 150 and just managing your own body as much as anything to make sure that you can have a long, sustained career?
Nearly impossible, to be honest. I think, once you see the speed gun, you sort of fall in love with that. And it can be dangerous, to be honest. It almost can be a little bit, of a negative thing, I feel, because it's fast bowling. I've personally found one of those ones where if I feel like I'm forcing it, it ends up coming out slower. And it's one of those ones where I feel like when I'm in rhythm and when I'm not thinking about it and you sort of enter that flow state, that's when you end up bowling your quickest. So it's a tough one of you always got your eyes on the gun and you're always wanting to bowl fast, but at the same time, I feel like when I'm bowling my quickest is when I'm in my best rhythm, and that's when you're just not thinking about it and it just flows naturally. So it can be a hard one, especially at training when you want to crank it up. It can be a hard one, but I try not to worry about the gun as much when I'm playing and just sort of find that rhythm and just worry about competing, and then normally the pace will follow if I do that.
And you've had some experience around Australian squads and Australian teams in the last year or two. What have you learnt from being around those guys, and what's that experience been like?
It was incredible. The first ODI tour that I went away on was absolutely amazing. I was down in Margaret River at the time, surfing and at the beach on the Sunday, and then was not sure if I wanted to drive up on Monday. I didn't have training till Tuesday, so wasn't too sure, but decided luckily to drive up and got a call in the morning from an unknown number and was a little bit rattled. I was like, what's going on here? Early in the morning, it's about 8 o'clock, and ended up not answering it, and then got a text message from Dodders and it said, hey, mate, give me a call back when you get a chance. And not going to lie, I wasn't 100% sure who the number was, and then did a quick Google search and figured out that I should probably pick that phone call up pretty quickly. So called Dodders back, and then, got the news that I was on the plane in a day's time, and went over and got to finally meet Starkey and got to finally meet Hoff and sort of just stand behind them and pick their brain as much as possible. And, it was an incredible couple of weeks. And then recently I've been fortunate enough to go over the T20 squad again and see Nelly go about his business, and, again, watch Hoff and how those boys go and how incredible they are, and, just try and pick their brains as much as possible.
You're a great storyteller. It's really cool listening to this, Mahli. So when you're watching them, did you feel I'm miles away, or by actually watching them and observing them feeling, actually, I'm not that far away. If I can get this right, that right, and listen to this, listen to that I'm kind of in the mix. I'm not far away. It's almost touching distance.
It was a mixture, to be honest. At the start, I felt like I was miles away. I was only a travelling reserve, so there was no real chance of playing, and I just knew I was over there to obviously just soak up as much as I can. So I always feel when I watch Starkey and those guys bowl, I always feel like I'm 100 kilometres away because they're so incredible at what they do. But it was sort of, as the tournament went on, Dwarsh went down with a peck, and then someone got injured, and then I think Starkey was overcoming a flu or something, and I sort of realised, I was like, oh my God, I'm 2 people away here from almost having to run out and take the new rock. The way things was going, everyone was going down with injury or sickness, so I sort of had to flick that mindset pretty quickly and realise that if I do have to go out and bowl to Harry Brook, I probably shouldn't be thinking I'm 100 kilometres away. So switched on a bit there, and then, I think as it went on and just the more that I got to pick those boys' brains, sort of the more confidence I got in myself. But, also just amazing how sort of welcoming and understanding Starkey and those boys are as well. They make you feel like you're a part of the unit straight away, and I think that was, that helped massively.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about some of the next generation coming through, the young guns, yourself. How do you deal with that sort of external sort of pressure and expectation, I guess, on you young guys coming through?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of pressure there. I think it's more of as I say, a privilege, to be honest, to be sort of put in that bracket. I think a lot of people have spoken about that World Cup group from a couple of years ago and the talent that's come out of that. And I think that when we finished that World Cup, I realised, and I looked around and I thought, this is an incredible group of cricketers. And then over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, if we didn't see a lot of national representatives or domestic success, I would have been a little bit stumped, to be honest, because of how the talent that came out of that group. I think it was, it's an absolute honour and a privilege to be able to sort of be put in that next generation and to be put in that position to be able to learn off the senior boys now. But I think we saw what Sammy did over the last few months, and even Harjit Singh hitting his 300 or whatever crazy number he did in that one-day game in grade cricket. I think, just the talent that have come out of that group is absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see what happens over the next few years.
So does that then help you knowing what Sam's been able to do for his country and obviously for New South Wales as well, and what Vidler did in a Shield final, and there's countless other examples. You've just given a couple as well. Do you kind of feel like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. It's just a matter of time. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sammy was that was a massive inspiration to all of us. I remember the group chat got brought back from the dead when he was ramping Boomer at 140. Dicko was sending in videos saying, what is going on here? So, I think it's a huge inspiration, obviously, and it was such an incredible innings. And then, as you said, Vid's bowling 150 and bowling absolute rockets in the Shield final was amazing as well. So there's constant motivation there. Even Peaky the other night whacking him in that Big Bash game. I think there's always going to be inspiration and motivation there. And I know personally I just use that as fuel. I see the other boys my age and from that group doing incredible things in a high level of cricket, and I just try and use that as motivation. So I'm sure we're all on a pretty similar page, and as I said, I can't wait to see what that group does.
And what's your major goal? You've obviously played a fair bit of white ball cricket, not a lot of red ball cricket just yet, but is your dream to play Test cricket, or are you happy just playing the shorter forms of the game?
No, Test cricket, absolutely. I think that's any young kid's dream, to be honest, to be able to put the baggy green on your head and run out in a Test match. A Boxing Day Test would be the absolute pinnacle for me personally. So it's just been more of a body thing recently of trying to get my body right. I've had a few little niggles and little injuries that have sort of held me back from being able to build a consistent load to be able to attack red ball properly. So it's just about getting through the start of the season, get a few one-day games in, and then roll into Big Bash and hopefully get through this no worries, and then have a look at where I'm sitting, and I think there'll be a decent chat about whether or not my body will be in a good position to have a look at red ball at the back half of the year.
Also, the plan is to hopefully play some Sheffield Shield cricket at the back end of the season?
Yeah, we'll see where we are, whether that's second 11 or grade cricket, and build up from there. But I think it will be starting at a limited overs red ball game, I would assume, sort of capping myself at a number and whatever that is, and then hopefully showing some resilience and being able to build up into hopefully what will be a Shield game.
Just finally, Mahli, we really appreciate your time. Just on the Scorchers and what's possible this year, because the bowling in Huss has talked about this. We've all talked about it. It's so different this year to previous years. There's so much more of a focus on the likes of yourself. What do you think's possible for this group in 2026? Absolutely
anything. I honestly believe that I still look at our batting lineup now on the scoreboard when we line up and think that would be an absolute nightmare to bowl to. So I think we've got so much power up top and a great mix of experience and youth between our bowling lineup. So I think we're just starting to gel now. I think we're actually, I feel like we're starting to grow as a unit and, as I said, trust ourselves a bit more. And it's such a different look for the Scorchers, and obviously having Dorf and AJ and all these people that have been around for long periods of time now, it is a different look. But I think we're starting to play some really strong cricket now. And as I said, I think our batting lineup is absolutely incredible. So I think anything's possible. I don't want to jinx anything too much in such the early doors, but I think that the sky is the limit for our group.
Thank you so much for joining us, sharing your story. I know that there's a lot more young cricket fans now that know a lot more about you from the way you've just shared your story. It feels like it's almost like this is your life. You've gone all the way back, but it's been awesome, and all your best cricket is still certainly to come. Thank you for sharing, and good luck for the rest of the tournament.
No worries. Thank you for having me, guys.
Mahli Beardman joining us on The Surge. We'll be back with more after this. So good to catch up with one of the young stars of the competition in Mahli Beardman. He speaks very well as well. He's an impressive young man. It's time now to get into yes, no, wait, Huss. Now, we put you under a lot of pressure last time. Let's see whether we can do the same again. We did talk a little bit earlier about Tim Ward. Have they unlocked the gem, or do you need to see a little bit more?
I'd like to see a little bit more. So I'll wait. I'm happy to wait on that one. But I really enjoyed his innings against the Sydney Thunder. And that'll help his confidence as well, because I think getting an opportunity at the top of the order in the Big Bash, he would have been unsure whether he's good enough. And so that's half the battle sometimes, is being able to do it once, say, okay, I am good enough to do this. I can perform at this level. So he looks like he's got the skills. I think if someone like Mitch Owen can get going at the other end, that can take some pressure off him as well. So I'm willing to wait, but I'm edging towards a yes.
Okay. Glenn Maxwell's form with the bat is becoming an issue for the Stars.
No, definitely not. I don't like him batting so low. I understand the theory behind it because he can finish games off as well as anyone. And as quickly as anyone. But I don't think it's a concern. I mean, they're getting runs from other sources at the moment. Sam Harper's been awesome. Marcus Stoiner's scoring runs. So I don't think it's a concern. And you just know that there's going to be a game or two or three or maybe even four where Maxie gets going.
All right. We only got to go back to last year where he didn't have the best start or first half of the competition, then came home like a freight train.
Yeah.
That almost single-handedly got them into the finals. I think we've got to just remember that. That wasn't that long ago. The strikers aren't good enough to play finals this year.
Well, I think that's real, yes. Again, I'm not willing to write them off, but their batting looks thin to me, and so much pressure on your Chris Lynn and your Matt Short. They don't get runs, then I feel as though they're going to be struggling a bit. So, I feel like they're not in the top four teams. I'm not saying they can't make the finals because you can always get on a bit of a run, but I don't feel like they're one of the four best teams in the comp.
All right, fair enough. There's no denying that the Gabba is the home of the Big Bash thriller.
Well, I'm going to say yes, although having said that, last night at the MCG was an absolute cracker of a game. I really enjoyed that. But I get excited every time I come to the Gabba. One, the crowd's great. They get right into the game. Conditions are beautiful up there. Beautiful pitch. There's a bit of pace and a bit of bounce for the bowlers, but it's also great. Comes onto the bat, so you see lots of runs, lots of sixes, and it's always very exciting.
Was that the favourite place for you as a player to bat? Was the Gabba the one that you got excited about the most?
Favourite it's hard to pick a favourite, but I did love batting there just because the pitch was so good for batting. It was true. Came onto the bat, you could score all around the ground once you get in. You'd have to work hard early in your innings because it had that extra pace and bounce, and it could swing around a little bit. But once you got in, it was a dream to bat on, and you could just feel like you could hit the bowler wherever you wanted.
Did you get seduced by the short boundary straight as well, particularly at one end?
See, the problem for me, Whitey, was that every boundary felt big. Didn't matter. I never felt like I had a short boundary ever.
Dear. I'm not even going to go there. I think I've seen you hit plenty of sixes to suggest otherwise. Not opening the batting with David Warner at the start of the tournament is now coming back to haunt the Thunder.
I think I agree with that. I think that's a yes. Anytime you come up against David Warner, where do you not want him to bat? And that's probably at the top because you know if he gets going, he's going to take the game away from you, like what he did to the Hurricanes the other night. Plus, they've got experience in the middle there with Sam Billings. So I understand if there was a lot of inexperience through the middle, then you can put David Warner in the middle, control that middle part of the innings, play the spin well, run hard between the wickets, finish the game off. I understand that thinking. But when you've got someone like Billings there to do that exact role, then I think you're better off just getting Warner at the top. Again, you can understand what they were thinking. Jilks and Constas, two exciting young players, but they're not a David Warner. They've looked okay, and they've got them off to a quick start every now and then, but neither of them have gone on with it to get a big match-winning score. David Warner, when he gets going, he will get you a match-winning score.
Isn't that the underrated part of what you've just said then around? We see around the competition an exciting young player can go out there and get 50 off 30 balls, 60 off 28 balls, but then get out. We saw what David Warner did. Now, okay, it didn't result in a victory, but that ability to turn a really good start into a big score where others can bat around.
Definitely. And again, for the young guys out there, national selectors, they're looking for that calmness and composure under pressure, executing your skills under pressure, but they're looking for those sort of players that play those match-winning innings, that can turn that 50 into an 80, a 90, 100. And that's why I was so pleased for someone like Josh Brown last night, because he got to 50 after getting, I think in his previous match, he got a good 40 and looked really good. And I was just hoping that it said, come on, now switch on and keep going. And I thought the way he played through that middle phase of the game was really good. Now, disappointing to get out when he did, because he had a chance to take the Renegades all the way to victory. But it was a little tick in his development as a player to just kick on a little bit more rather than being happy with his 40 or 50.
Yeah, interesting. Another thing that came out of that Thunder Hurricanes game was Nick Maddinson retiring himself out. Now, I must confess, I'm surprised this hasn't happened more often. I think it was a selfless move from Maddinson, who, as I understand it, made that call himself as opposed to it coming from the dugout. But I'll ask you, I'm sort of putting words in your mouth. Yes, no, wait, a good decision.
I'm going to say wait, because I don't necessarily like it personally.
Right.
Now, I've been involved with teams. So the Chennai Super Kings, we retired Devon Conway. He was 60-odd not out, and he was getting tired. He was losing a bit of power, so we retired him at the back end of a T20 innings. And he comes off, and he was bemused. Like, he was like, hang on, I'm on 65, 70 not out. I feel like I'm going well, and you've retired me to bring in like a hitter to finish things off. With the Nick Maddinson one, he'd invested 30, however many balls he'd faced on the wicket. So he was used to the conditions. It's not that easy for a new player to come in, i.e. Daniel Sams, and just hit the ball out of the park from ball one. So the question for me is, I understand the thinking, and Sams came in and, to be fair, did a reasonable job, but could Maddinson have done just as good a job, if not better, because he would been out there for longer and used to the conditions? I mean, we'll never know the answer to that question. So what did Sams hit? I saw he definitely hit 1-6, and I think he nicked one over the slips but went for 4. Yeah. So I don't know if he scored many more than that.
Around 200 for his innings.
Yeah, so
he didn't face too many balls either, admittedly.
And that's pretty good. But, I mean, Maddinson, he probably could have gone about the same. So, and then you've got to also understand, what effect does that have on the player? So Maddinson retiring himself, that's absolutely fine. But if that had have come from the side and, does that affect the player thinking, oh, gosh, these guys don't rate me, or they don't think I can finish the game off? It can have a negative effect unless you've spoken about it as a team before the tournament. So, for example, for Devon Conway, he was bemused when we decided to retire him in that particular game, and I think it had an effect on him moving forward.
So then does that mean there needs to be a mindset change from cricket, that it's almost like taking a bowler off who's not doing a job for his team and replacing him with another bowler, that it can happen to a batter as well, who he might be 12 off 18 balls when they need to be going at 8s and 9s, that, I'm sorry, you're not doing a good enough job, we're going to replace you like you would if it was a bowler. So is that a mindset change thing?
Yeah, but I think you need to sit down as a team before the tournament and have these discussions and sort of say, look, what do we think as a team? When do you think is the right time to do it? I'll give you another example. I was coaching in the 100 with the Welsh Fire, and we had a player, I'm happy to name him, Steve Eskenazi, and he was batting nicely. It was a difficult pitch. But he has a reputation of being very good in the power play and then not really been able to find the boundaries through the middle phase of the game. And so there was discussions going on in the dugout of whether we should retire him and bring in a player that can find the boundary through the middle, a guy called Tom Kohler-Cadmore. And I was sitting there and I'm thinking, I don't like this. So we decided not to do it. And to be fair, Steve Eskenazi absolutely dominated the middle phase, ended up on 60-odd and hit a number of boundaries. And I thought, thank goodness we didn't retire him, because the new guy coming in might have had to take 4 or 5 balls to get used to the conditions and then be able to try and pick up the pace. And I'm so glad we decided not to do it. So there is going to have to be a change of mindset, but I don't know. I'm still reticent to go for it.
See, I was dead set on it being a good thing, but even you saying it now, it's starting to make me feel like it's good on paper or good in theory, but it doesn't necessarily work that way when you put it in practice.
If you've got, say, like an Andre Russell waiting in the wings and you know he can come out and smash it from ball one, for the last couple of overs, maybe you do just send him in there and say, try and hit a couple of sixes. And if the batter out there in the middle is getting tired or he's lost a bit of power or he's just not been able to find the middle of the bat for a period of time, then definitely consider it. But I feel like you need to have that conversation as a team.
Sean Abbott's he was bowling the other night at Marvel Stadium, and all I could think about was you, because you talked about him being in the top 3 best BBL players of all time. We haven't seen a lot of him through this tournament through injury. He's immediately making an impact. Is there So is there no one, I'm going to say, how do I say this? It's almost like he's more important to his team than anyone else in the competition.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, he bowls all the difficult overs, and Moses Henriques goes to him every single time.
He does.
So he knows he can trust him. He knows that he will, again, be able to execute his skills most of the time under pressure. He picks up wickets for them. He's gun in the field. He's handy with the bat as well. So he's one of those complete package players that we were talking about before. So yeah, he's very, very important player, and he'll be jumping out of his skin, to play. He was been injured for a while, so back to full fitness. Bit of confidence early by having a good game under his belt, and for the Sixers, let's hope he can keep those performances up.
Absolutely, we might continue that conversation around retiring batsmen after the show, because I've still got more questions I want to ask about that. But we are pretty much wrapping up our show for today. Thank you for coming in again. It's great talking cricket with you, and thank you also to Mahli Beardman for joining us from the Scorchers. But before we do, there's two things I need to do. Firstly, your SuperCoach team, please.
Yes.
How is it going? Because I know you take it more seriously than me, which I didn't think was possible. James and I, we've got our team. It's just like the most important thing we do over summer. How's your going? Because I think it's going better than mine.
I'm going okay. I've just been sorting out my trades this morning, actually, for the new round. The new round starts today. You're
already looking ahead to the next round and the round after that.
Well, you've got to keep an eye on the schedule. So the Sydney Sixers have 2 games this round. So anyone out there, get a couple of Sydney Sixers players into your team. My ranking's coming down, so it's I'm ranked 1,313th at the moment, so not too bad.
That's pretty good.
But managed. Yeah, last round was okay, but still managed to hang in there. So I'm enjoying it.
We crashed and burned in the last round. We're having a crisis meeting over lunch today before we start looking at our trades. And what about your updated seeds at this point in the tournament? You did it a week or so ago. What have you got for us now?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if they've changed too much, to be honest. I've gone Hobart Hurricanes still number 1. Mm-hmm. Perth Scorchers nipping at their heels, especially now that they're getting their bowling sorted out as well. They're number 2. I'm still got the Melbourne Stars in there in the top 3, despite losing the last couple of games. I think there's enough quality in their team there. And then at 4, I'm sliding the Sixers in there. Mm-hmm. I feel as though they're getting their game going a little bit more. Bubba's starting to find a bit of form as well, and Sean Abbott back in the team, that I feel like they're a top 4 team.
All right. For what it's worth, I've got Stars, Hurricanes, Scorchers, Sixers with the Renegades 5th. They're my pick at the moment.
Okay.
So pretty similar to what you've got, but in a different order. Don't forget also to play the Big Bash grid game. I know that a lot of people are having a lot of fun with that, showing off with all the random players from the past that have played in the BBL. And make sure you also stay up to date with everything BBL by downloading the Big Bash app. You'll find the BKT tipping competition where you can win up to $15,000 plus all the stats, the ladder, the fixture, everything you need, the SuperCoach, everything we need when it comes to the BBL. That's it for us for The Surge. We'll catch you again next time.